Hello guys, it's Weeaboo Pains here. You can call me Weebs. I want to introduce you to the first episode of my new versus series called Weeaboo Deathmatch. Let's get into it. As you can see in the title, the first lineup is going to be between Kaneki Ken from Tokyo Ghoul and Shinichi Izumi from Parasite. But before we get into the battle and all the numbers and whatnot, I kind of want to explain what Weeaboo Deathmatches are since this is the first episode of a Weeaboo Deathmatch. What Weeaboo Deathmatches are basically me taking anime characters and putting them up against each other to see who is a better fighter. That's it. It can be a group, it can be one-on-one, it can be two teams against one another, it doesn't matter. I'm just taking anime characters, putting them up against fights, doing my research, and seeing who the hell is the better fighter. That's it. But how I want to do this is I don't want to be complete blowout scenarios. I don't want two characters to fight each other that already have a really obvious outcome, as you already know who's going to win. It's just me wasting my time, and I'm not going to waste my time doing the research for something that's really fucking obvious. Another thing I want to say is that I'm not calculating for a one battle scenario. I'm calculating for 100 battles. Which fighter is the better fighter? It's not who would win this one fight. It's who would win out of 100 fights. Now, the reason why I'm using 100 as the number is because it's just easier to calculate, and that's typically how it would go. It'd be like, oh yeah, you already know who the winner is going to be out of those fights. It's pretty pointless. It's something that I can definitely calculate, but still. Another thing is that I'm calculating characters based on a few core traits, such as strength, speed, and intelligence. But I'm also taking in other traits as well, such as accuracy, regeneration, and just other abilities that are relevant to that character, or really important to that character. So anyway, guys, let's get into this first Weeaboo deathmatch between Kaneki and Shinichi. First one's up is going to be Shinichi. Oh, Shinichi Izumi, just a regular kid, relaxing and chilling inside his home until he's attacked by an alien parasite that took over his right arm. Now he is still Shinichi Izumi, but with a parasite in his arm. But what this parasite does, it gives Shinichi a major boost in power, especially within the right arm that it took over. And we're going to get into all of that and why it matters. Now, one thing I want to say right now is that Shinichi and Migi are one person. It's not, oh, Shinichi is his own person and Migi is his own person. No, Shinichi and Migi in this battle are one person. If Shinichi can't have Migi, then Kaneki cannot have Rize's ghoul part. If we're going to be technical here, Kaneki is not originally a ghoul as much as Shinichi doesn't originally have Migi. If we're being technical and fair, take away Migi, take away ghoul parts. Cool? Cool? Everybody cool? No problems? Yeah? Anyway, getting to the numbers for Shinichi. So before me actually calculating things for Shinichi, I kind of wanted to bring up how strong I think Migi is. And I think Migi is very powerful, so I'm going to explain a little bit more about parasites. Parasites are very powerful creatures, but it's never said in the series how powerful they are. So in actually one of the first scenes of the series, we're introduced to an instance in which you can actually calculate a parasite's power. In the beginning, there was a car that was going to go hit a little girl, and Shinichi ended up being the one to go save her. But the one that actually saved the girl was Migi. When Shinichi jumped in front of his car, Migi stopped it. I found that to be a rather impressive feat to really mark down and label, and I was curious just how much would it take to stop a car like that. So I did a little bit of research. Not being able to actually find a car to use per se, I decided to use some rough measurements to determine, what kind of car it could have been. So anyway, most cars in Japan weigh about 3,300 pounds. So I decided to take that number, put that into the car. That's how much the car would have weighed. Most cars in Japan go around 90 kilometers per hour, which is going to be 60 miles per hour over here in America, and that would be the speed I was going at. Now, determining how much feet it would have went would determine how much force it would have taken to stop it. So the thing I decided to do with this was that the car definitely was going at 60 miles per hour. It was going at top speed and it wasn't stopping anytime soon, because it was going to smash the shit out of that little girl. Sounds really brutal when I say it out loud. Anyway, I definitely can say that the car was going 60 miles per hour. Now, how far I was traveling was not something that you can really calculate. It's something that you can speculate about, so I decided to present two different numbers. And regardless, these numbers are still pretty fucking high. Being really stingy, we can say that the car is about 40 feet away. Counting that turn the corner, still going at the same speed per hour. The car turned the corner, went down the street. That's about 40 feet. And Shinichi stopped it. Well, Migi. So it was going at that speed and the parasite stopped it. So if it was going at 40 feet, 60 miles per hour, 3,300 pounds, then that would have been 5 tons of force. Now, if you want to be a little more generous and say that the car is 20 feet away, then that is still 10 tons of force. That's a lot of power that parasite can apparently stop. To be able to stop a car almost instantly with about 5 to 10 tons of force. But for sake of the battle, we'll say that is around 5 tons. So Migi and all parasites are capable of stopping 5 tons. But another thing about parasites is that they have a regenerative ability, but this only counts for them. Parasites have been shown to get their heads cut off or one of their tentacles or one of their arms cut off, and they just grow them right back almost instantly. Another thing about parasites is that their tentacles or their arms can definitely change to various shapes, multiple shapes. Migi actually showed examples of turning his own arm or tentacle into faces of people and stuff like that. So parasites definitely do have a large variety of things that they can do with their tentacles. Just thinking of all the hentai people are probably thinking about right now. That's just Migi, and that's just his numbers and what he can do. But it's also shown that if parasites go in certain places, then they can do other things as well, but we're only focusing focusing on the right hand as to what Migi can do. Another thing that Migi can do is fend off attacks. I mean really fast attacks. Attacks that are considered to be faster than a human eye, which is really fucking impressive in itself. But that's enough for Migi right now. We're gonna move on to Shinichi, because Shinichi has some great traits himself, and he has a lot of power behind him that a lot of people probably looked over. So I'm gonna talk about that right now. So dwelling into spoiler territory, hopefully I put a warning there. If I didn't, then I'm so sorry. But this is your spoiler warning right now. This is a spoiler warning. Spoilers ahead. Seriously, if you haven't finished Parasite the Tokyo Ghoul, then I don't even know why you're watching this battle. This is your spoiler warning right now, and you're still here. Go away if you have not seen both of these series. Complete them. The anime, the manga, something. Just go. They both have anime and manga. Just go, leave, shoot, get out. Okay, now that the people that probably don't want to spoil themselves are gone, I'm gonna explain. Later on in the series, Shinichi's mom is invaded by a parasite and she attacks him, almost killing him. For 3 days, Migi sat there and recovered Shinichi's body. But as Shinichi was getting his body recovered by Migi, Migi put 30% of his body within Shinichi, which definitely did enhance Shinichi a good amount. And we're gonna get into numbers as to how powerful Shinichi has become after that. And some of it might actually surprise you just a little bit. First thing, let's start off with Shinichi's speed. Shinichi said himself he could run 100 meters in 9 seconds. That's around 25 miles per hour that he's running. But it doesn't just stop there. He's also seen to be able to outrun a car. So you can definitely say that Shinichi's speed clocks into about 60 to 70 miles per hour. That's an impressive feat in itself. Especially considering the fact that we looked at numbers earlier that cars in Japan travel about 60 miles per hour anyway, and Shinichi just outran that with ease. But it's also a simple fact that he can run 100 meters in 9 seconds, which is way faster than the actual record holder, Usain Bolt's record, who ran that same amount in about 10 seconds. It's about a second faster, but it's still a really big number considering the fact that Usain Bolt ran at 23 miles per hour. And again, this is Shinichi doing this without training. It's just a little bit of parasite on him. Imagine 100% of Migi. He'd probably run like Sonic. Anyway, now that we have his speed down, which is probably one of the more easier things to look at, let's look at Shinichi's strength. Shinichi's strength is something that was really hard for me to calculate, because there were no real big instances in how powerful he was as a person. Anyways, we've seen Shinichi do some really crazy things when it comes to strength. One of those things being probably one of the more epic scenes that I've seen inside that anime.
防御頼む。
防御
So, since we can't calculate Shinichi's strength, we can say the 30% of Migi that went inside Shinichi will calculate to Shinichi's strength. And since Migi is shown to be able to stop at least 5 tons of force, at the most 10 tons of force, Shinichi is able to at least stop 1.5 tons of force, and he can put that 1.5 tons of force in his attacks as well. So one punch from Shinichi actually does have the chance to be able to kill Kaneki, even one-shot him. Anyway, let's talk about the other feats of Shinichi's. Some of Shinichi's other feats consist of him seeing from 300 meters clearly and vividly, as you can see from his little battle with Shimada, but also that Shinichi is really durable and he can take a lot of fall damage. He jumped about 20 feet in the air when he jumped over that seawall, and when he jumped off of his school building when he was running away from the parasites after saving Murano. Shinichi is a character that has really good perception, being able to actually dodge parasite tentacles with ease and even smacking them away with his bare hand. However, while these amazing feats aside, Shinichi is still human. If you hit Shinichi hard enough, then he will die. He will break and he will be hurt because he's still a human. He has a really great mental state, but other than that, he's still a human. He has a little more power behind him, but that's all there is to it. If Shinichi dies, then Migi dies, and parasites are also really weak to fire as well, but I don't see Kaneki using fire in this battle, so nothing to really worry about. The only weakness within this battle is just Shinichi being a human. But let's look into it, because that might not even be a big issue. Anyway, let's move on to the Tokyo Ghoul poster boy, Kaneki Ken. Kaneki Ken, going on a date with a girl ends up being a ghoul, and it turns out that she tries to eat him, but some type of deus ex machina comes out of nowhere, and that ghoul is killed by I-beams, and Kaneki ends up getting her ghoul part, and he becomes a half-human, half-ghoul. So actually, before getting to Kaneki and his abilities and whatnot, let's look into ghouls. Ghouls are said to be about 4 to 7 times stronger than the average human adult. So I decided to make a little chart, kind of explain this and what ranking each ghoul would be. And I guess I call this the ghoul chart. Ooh, the ghoul chart. So looking at my ghoul chart, we'd say that B rank ghouls are about 4 times stronger and faster. We'd say that A rank ghouls would be 5 times stronger or faster. S rank ghouls would be 6 times stronger and faster, and SS rank ghouls would be 7 times stronger and faster. There's never ranking, but I'm not going to get into that until a little bit later on in this breakdown, but it definitely is a really major one. So looking at the series and skipping past Kaneki actually being tortured, we can actually see him at his full ghoul potential, which is what we want to primarily look at right here. Kaneki's full ghoul potential puts him ranked up as an SS rank ghoul. So that means Kaneki would be 7 times stronger than your average human adult male. With that being said, let's see what Kaneki can actually do. So looking at the numbers for the average speed for the average human male, The average human can run to about 15 to 20 miles per hour, but we're going to put it at 20 and multiply it by 7. Kaneki's base running speed is around 140 miles per hour, which is insane. It's completely fucking fast. Now let's look into Kaneki's actual strength. So looking at the list, the average human can squat 125 pounds, bench press 135 pounds, and deadlift 155 pounds. Multiplying all those numbers by 7, we can see that Kaneki is lifting 875 pounds, 945 pounds, and 1085 pounds. That's a lot. That's just him in his base ghoul form. Another thing that I want to note is that Kaneki's intelligent. Kaneki is a really intelligent individual, and he seems to learn fast. Studying martial arts through books and learning from Toka, he seems to develop really well, and it's really great to actually see how well he's actually doing it. Compared to Shinichi, who's just a regular school student who really isn't anything special, you kind of can see that Kaneki is a little bit more smarter than the base Shinichi. But anyway, it doesn't even stop there, so let's get into the next thing I want to talk about, which is Kakuja Kaneki. Kakuja Kaneki is really powerful, and I'd like to say that kakuja, or at least triple S rank ghouls, are 10 times stronger than the average human. So let's look into new numbers for Kaneki here. So going into speed, automatically off the bat for Kakuja Kaneki. Kakuja Kaneki can travel about 220,000 miles per hour. Now I know what you're thinking. Weebs, where did you get such a number from? How did you jump to that type of conclusion? Well, in the manga during his fight with Arima, you actually see that Arima is shooting lightning at Kaneki, and he's dodging it with ease. So based off that, I want to conclude that Kaneki is at least faster than lightning, or at least as fast as lightning, to be able to dodge it without any problems whatsoever. Now moving to Kakuja Kaneki's strength, let's say that's multiplied by 10. Looking at strength, that's 1,250 pounds being squatted, 1,350 pounds being bench pressed, and 1,550 pounds being deadlifted. That's really powerful, but comparing to Shinichi, not so much. However, I don't think that's a really big thing when it comes to Kaneki. Looking at other things that are impressive about Kaneki is that he has ghoul senses. Ghoul senses help him identify humans and ghouls. I'm not sure how much it would really help against a parasite, but it can definitely help him identify what's going on, what's happening. Another thing I want to note is that Kaneki has a really good Kagune. Kaneki's Kagune is a Rinkaku, and a Rinkaku Kagune is primarily good for his regeneration abilities. Kaneki has been attacked by attacks that usually would be otherwise fatal, and these attacks are things that he healed from almost instantly like they were nothing, due to his Rinkaku. Another thing I want to know about Kaneki's Kakuja form is that he becomes really unstable and really sporadic, therefore he's not really as tactical as he used to be. And against Migi, who learned Japanese in a day, he would have a field day, literally tearing apart at that and exploiting that weakness. But besides all that, let's get into who I think would win majority of the fights. And these are the results of the first Weeaboo Deathmatch. The person I'd say is the better fighter in this case would have to be, and drumroll please, Kaneki Ken. The reason why I think Kaneki is going to win the majority of the fights are two things and two things only. That is the simple fact that Migi wouldn't be able to read him, which in some regards can be an advantage but can also be a disadvantage. You have this man moving at 220,000 miles per hour. In most case scenarios, he will use that speed to literally overwhelm Shinichi and Migi. Another thing that is a really big factor is that he can regenerate from almost fatal attacks. He's done this multiple times in his fights, but I also see Shinichi beating Kaneki as well. But I'm not saying that it's impossible for Shinichi to be able to beat Kaneki. Again, if Migi is able to fend off Kaneki's Rinkaku, which I'm pretty sure he's able to do, because Rinkakus are actually considered to be the weakest Kagune when it comes to anything else, but they're really good for regenerative abilities, but they're really weak when it comes to power. They're not really strong. As you can see, Shachi managed to beat the shit out of Kaneki twice, using pure power alone, which is something that Shinichi definitely does have. Shinichi definitely could get that one lucky punch off of Kaneki, but I'm not sure if Shinichi is able to survive an attack from Kaneki. If Migi is able to fend off Kaneki enough, then yes, it definitely is possible for Shinichi to run and get the punch, but the majority of the time I see Kaneki using his speed and his 8 tentacles to completely overwhelm Migi and Shinichi. As stated in anime and manga, Migi has said that parasites are definitely limited to how many tentacles that they can use. At the most, I see Migi being able to pull out 4 blades that will be able to actually fend off for a little bit, but I don't think it would be enough to stop Kaneki most of the time. In some instances, he may be able to stop Kaneki, but even so, he has to hold him off long enough for Shinichi to even get the punch in. Another thing I want to bring up is that Shinichi can dodge Kaneki's attacks. It's also seen by Arima. Arima dodged a few of Kaneki's attacks during their fight, and Arima is a human. He's a pure human, and he managed to dodge some of these attacks from Kaneki within his Kakuja form. So definitely it's possible for Shinichi to do it. But the thing is that Shinichi is still a human. If Shinichi had a hardened body like Gatal, then maybe he'd be able to easily destroy Kaneki. But it's the simple fact that he's still human that he won't be able to fight on complete even ground. He definitely does have the means of defeating Kaneki, and he can defeat him a few times, but if they were to fight 100 times, I'd say the majority is definitely going to go to Kaneki. I see Kaneki winning at least 60 to 70 fights, as opposed to Shinichi winning 30 to 40% of the fights. Plus, I haven't included battle experience yet, where Kaneki basically took on 100 ghouls by himself in one night. as Shinichi can hardly hold off more than one parasite. But it's the simple fact that Kaneki has way more battle experience, fighting off ghoul investigators and other ghouls who are much stronger than him. This is my analysis, and this is the end of the first Weeaboo Deathmatch. Hopefully you guys liked it. Please, all criticism is welcome. Likes, dislikes, whatever you want to do. Spam me. I don't know. If you want to suggest some stuff, then tweet at me. I'll definitely look into them and see if they're definitely worth it. I do have some ideas for some Weeaboo Deathmatches that I might end up doing, so if I don't get any suggestions, I'll just make another one. Anyway, guys, arigato and jamatane.